but Clid specifically has been proving a lot.
He certainly has. Raz, thank you so much for your insight. He'll be joining us later when we get into the post-game for game number 2. But we have entered picks and bans for game number 1, as you can see. Xiaogu opting for blue side in this first set, and Game Talent's going to be taking the red side. Jace, Malzahar banned away, along with that LeBlanc from Doinby and Rengar taken away from Clid.
LeBlanc, Rengar make a lot of sense. Rise also someone that should hit the ban list, as should Camille. The Jace is the only standout, perhaps you would say, as a different ban of choice, taken away from either Republic or Gimgoon.
Yeah, now we're about to get to the first pick for Xiaogu. Zyra is going to be the ban from Cloud for that final ban of Game Talents for the first half. And now it's time to see, are they going to follow the standard meta? Rise, very strong pick. Doinby going to take it immediately.
Yeah, and makes a lot of sense to go straight for that Rise. Of course, both players, Doinby and Republic, are known as Victor mains, so very good on control mages is the big point you take away from that. Doinby, though, can lash out and play Assassins. But for this game, for game number 1, his first time back in the LPL after a part of a split missing, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's going to go back to his staple.
He's playing playing according to the rules for now.
According to the meta, I guess we'll go with.
We'll have to see if he changes it up, as Wushuang going to be taking that Kha'Zix in the jungle. Very mobile, and we've seen a couple of different Kha'Zixes over the past few days. And it looks like they might want to pair that up right away.
Granted, Rengar's the only jungle ban. Locking in the Kha'Zix immediately shows their priority in English towards that. Rek'Sai's still available, however. Lee Sin also still there, at least even if they want to stretch and play something else. Clid will have options. So it's interesting that they really heavily prioritize that.
Yeah, so far Game Talents haven't shown too much. They know they're going to be dealing with that Rise, but Xiaogu raced through their picks, Lee Sin, and immediately Thresh for Cloud.
Now Thresh locked in with only Zyra banned. I mean, Zyra is one of the worst matchups for Thresh. We've seen this work. You lose push priority when you're actually against that champion. But Savoki's expected to do this, and perhaps that's why they've opted into an early Thresh, acknowledging that this is available and threatening as well, that we've locked in our support and we could ban it away from you if you don't lock the Tahm Kench here, so that we can then pinch other roles.
Yeah, Xiaogu showing that they might be playing this pick and ban game a little bit faster and harder than Game Talents were expecting. Instead, now they are going to turn to Candy 7's AD carry pool by banning away that Kalista next. And Xiaogu, they can pressure the AD carry and the top lane, same as Game Talents. Question is, who's the target?
I mean, even if you're a Kalista main, I don't see any merit in banning Kalista. Like, Varus and Ashe are the two best AD carries at the moment. Caitlyn is always going to crop up, and QG banned the Caitlyn away. So now they're just targeting each other with AD carries. And we're going to have a pretty big question mark as to what Game Talents are going to first pick, and if it is an AD carry, because they're still banning it.
Varus banned away once again. So far, that is 3 AD carry bans as we enter into this next phase. And make that 4. Jhin is the follow-up. Game Talents have got priority here.
So, again, Ashe is still probably the best AD carry right now, as they've banned everything but it.
Fire the arrow, take the Tahm Kench voyage.
And also by picking the Tahm Kench, QG didn't really necessarily want the Ashe, because the Tahm Kench can eat somebody out of the stun. And so there's their option.
Yeah, Sivir is going to be the pickup, and Maokai, as a result, makes it all the way to the bottom. Xiaogu looking very strong with their draft.
And I do have to give them credit for that drafting phase by going the Thresh, forcing perhaps the Tahm Kench response, then banning AD carries, knowing that Ashe is left up, wanting Sivir into it. They still get that free pick of the Maokai because they force Ashe as the first rotation, as it is the best current standing option.
There are still a lot of picks for Game Talents. Gimgoon, he's got the Nautilus available, but decides to take that Singed into the Maokai in the top lane.
He does strike me as a potential Singed player, Gimgoon.
Yeah.
He's got that ideology about him.
The recklessly running through the backlines?
Not necessarily. He's just really, like, he would play tanks even if tanks weren't a thing. But this is one of the few tanks that can deal with Maokai firstly, can in a way outscale and just be far more annoying in laning phase. Get that rock portal build if you want. I mean, he can go Banner of Command if he feels really rude and make Kabe's day a living nightmare.
So now taking a look at these compositions, we've got a lot of mobility from Xiaogu, what appears to be a fairly standard teamfight comp out of Game Talents.
Yeah, I would actually say, aside from the Singed, who can still come in, especially when you get the Righteous Glory, Randuin's Omen, things like that, super standard team fighting comp. Singed does come in towards late game and make it a 5-man based fighting composition, but if Kha'Zix can get the Singed going, Kha'Zix can get the Orianna going, then that team can snowball incredibly well, and Game Talent's strength is always going to be that late game team fighting.
We're really going to have to keep an eye on the junglers to see if they can accelerate the pace of that. Wushang on that Kha'Zix, as you said, definitely going to be putting some pressure towards Doinby to try to keep him from getting off the ground. We've seen what an amazing Ryze can do, and we know Doinby is no slouch.
And now we saw Athena actually playing the Ryze yesterday, and the way that he played Ryze I would expect is similar to what Doinby would do, and that is expend mana and recall. Control the minion wave and disappear. That is something that you expect firstly from a Ryze, because his ganking is incredible when you work with a jungler, who is Lee Sin in this case. So that's my expectation. We'll see if Doinby has shifted his style in his time off the main stage.
There is an opportunity for him to show us something new here, or perhaps go back to what has worked for him in the past and save that sort of spicy surprise for when he gets the opportunity to play Xiaogu's ultimate rivals in Newbie.
And I guess the biggest challenge we have to give QG, we're highlighting their strengths, we still have to look at the Sivir Thresh bottom lane and say this is one of the more abstract choices for a 2v2. Not necessarily a bad lane. The spell shield is really good into Ashe, especially in the early levels. Thresh can deal with Tahm Kench successfully, but it's not exactly your stock standard meta 2v2.
We'll certainly have to keep an eye on how that interaction works as we've loaded onto the Rift for game number 1 of our final day for this first week of the LPL. It's Xiaogu versus Game Talents.
Now we do have to, once again, say where do we look first? And our eyes always go to the junglers, especially in the current meta. They are the strongest role of choice for helping the rest of the map get going. We've seen a couple of interesting fake starts from top laners where they'll hit the red buff, wait till it's late in the laning phase and then come in, feigning the fact that they've been on the red side when it's not. And we'll see how these junglers actually start on Summoner's Rift, as we're currently in a dance party opposed to anything else.
Zubin's having a grand old time. Savoki's on the side. He's the bouncer at the front, just making sure nobody enters into the bush without his permission. As Wushang heads towards the top side of the map, and looks like we're seeing the same thing out of Clid.
It's on a ward though.
I believe they saw them enter, which is why we're seeing Wushang take his time getting around.
So the acknowledgement of the ward is definitely there. So they're waiting until the red buff spawns before they show themselves. Removes any opportunity of an expected counter or steal from the Lee Sin. They even warded on the bottom side of the red buff to ensure that. But QG still have the knowledge, and that knowledge will be the power that they need to make their next steps. And if Lee Sin chooses to actually invade somewhere, he'll know that it's a blue buff. If he chooses to gank top lane, he'll know that Kha'Zix is a blue buff also.
Yeah, so far, standard jungle start out of Clid, going for the Wolves, and you can see Wushang is doing the same before they head over to that third buff. Taking a look at the Masteries, standard across the line. We do have Warlords on that Sivir, and Storm Raiders Surge on Ashe.
Storm Raiders Surge Ashe? Are you for real?
Maybe he's hoping for the 100-0.
It must be lag. He's misclicked or he's trolling. Like, Warlord's Bloodlust is so good on Ashe, and you're a champion that usually goes Essence Reaver, Runon's Hurricane, Infinity Edge in any order. None of those are lifesteal.
So take a look. We talked about minion control for Doinby. He's immediately cleared out his wave and is going to invade with Clid, who clears out his red buff. Ward over the wall, sees that blue buff is taken, but that means Clid is safe in the jungle for now.
But again, it's more vision. So Clid knows that he's at the Gromp because the blue buff has been taken. So he'll get the Scuttle Crab first, which helps with ganks and preventing them. It'll have to be an explosive plan used from Wushang if he wants to get to the bottom lane. It also means that he can't get to the middle lane, and Doinby has a bit of free time to do this.
Yeah, just trading out some damage onto Republic.
And he'll do exactly what we expected. So he's gone the Mana Crystal, he'll recall, get his tier, and try and reset the map once again.
Ooh. Zubin takes some damage there, and Savoki is able to eat him to save him, but he did miss the cannon minion.
Imagine if... he does have Warlords. You lied to me, Graphic. Oh, nice dodge.
Sidesteps that one. I'm trying to see if he's got the big red arrow. Yeah, he does have
he
Warlords.
does. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Unless that's Relic Shield.
The big red arrow?
Because I'm not seeing it now.
No, it's only when he gets the crit, right?
All right.
So
Well, moving on.
Yeah.
We'll touch back in on his decision on Keystone Mastery.
Taking a look at the top lane, you've got Kabe and Gimgoon going fairly even. Kabe currently pushed under his turret, but still has 2 charges on that Corrupting Potion. I'm curious to see if Gimgoon goes for the Duke-style Singed. Triple Dark Seal into Corrupting Potion.
Well, starting with 1 Dark Seal does indicate that he'll want to at least get 1 more. 3 is a lot, and we said that already, and like 3
Yeah.
indicates that you're in it for the long haul. Is Clid now looking towards this middle lane? I do only expect 2 from Gimgoon.
Yeah, Clid, as you said, going for a roam towards the mid lane. Doinb keeping control over that bottom side of the river. 2 control wards, 1 in the bush and 1 in Pixel. Not to mention lane pressure from Candy 7 and Cloud.
The other thing we haven't hit, it is standard, but both mid laners actually have Flash and Ghost, which means the damage from the Lee Sin and the Kha'Zix, if they get onto the targets, will be very large and they can have a massive impact. So it's important that Doinb and Republic alike position well to ensure that they are the ones getting the damage off first.
Yeah, right now you can see Republic
3.
slightly up in CS. Oh man, he actually went for the 3 Dark Seals. Alrighty.
It's not uncommon, I will say, for any Singed play, solo queue and competitive. The LCK's gone for it as well. I just don't like 3 because his next item will mean that he can't get a control ward. So the one that he places now will have to be a safe one or a long-standing one to be efficient in any way.
Speaking of control wards, we did see Wu Shuang attempt to roam through bottom. He was spotted by 2 control wards and then sidestepped them both on his way back out. Republic was able to clear the one in the river, but you know Doinb is just going to replace that the moment he gets a recall. And right now, Doinb's actually taking some damage down in CS. Snare lands. As you said, there goes the Ghost. Gets some more. Sonic Wave forces the Flash. And Republic also burns his Ghost, so that's 2 summoner spells for 1.
Yeah, Doinb uses the Ghost, makes sure that he goes in, but both from Republic means that he is in a big point of danger. You'll see vision from both Republic and Wu Shuang, maybe even Savoki when he leaves lane, looking at that middle lane to ensure that when Clid gets 6, they can't kill him.
Yeah, Wu Shuang shows up to shove this wave out, force Doinb to stay just a little bit longer. He is almost completely out of mana and down 16 CS right now. This is going to alleviate it somewhat, but Doinb seems to be having a rough start in lane on his first game back in the LPL.
Yeah, nice hook as well, though, bottom lane. So mid lane's definitely down in farm, not having the best time, but he will still be a rise, and he still has enough CS to, you know, keep up. He's got his boots, he has his big item that he needs to actually push the lane out again, try and just control the minion waves and disappear, rinse and repeat as necessary.
With those boots, he's on his way back, has level 6, and so too does Republic. Clid roaming
Super
towards
close.
the bottom
so
side.
minions will get him 6, which is what he was waiting for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a ward will spot him.
Ooh, Gimgoon trying to proxy. And is going to take some damage here from Kabe, but Clid's on the other
He
side
won't
of the
die.
map, yeah. Gimgoon pops the ultimate, and Wu Shuang actually heads down to that side as the blue buff spawns.
Yeah, so being able to have 3 Dark Seals means that when he pops a potion, he'll regain a whole lot of health back. That and his ultimate giving increased health regeneration as a separate entity.
Oh, he got the Sonic Wave,
Okay,
but
but look
spotted
who's
Wu
forward.
Shuang out there. Leaps over the wall, stealths back and gets away from vision. Doinb Flash gets the snare. There's the Sonic Wave follow-up. First blood, but Shockwave finds Xiaogu to no avail.
Yeah, and the Honey Fruit will get Doinb back to full health and mana. Has a red buff to boot, and they actually make a really good reactive play opposed to a proactive one. Wu Shuang looking towards the blue buff when Gimgoon was losing lane already, trying to just proxy it. I guess as a safety measure for the Singed, doesn't actually work out like that.
Yeah, taking a look at the fan votes, 79% of fans think Xiaogu are going to take this. And now with that first blood, they just might be poised to start an early advantage.
That's a lot of believers in QG.
Yep.
The name QG actually has a brand label with it of pretty strong performance in the LPL. Of course, it was a different roster. Doinb is the only consistent member, but they were the second best team for quite a while.
They were. I was there back in summer 2015 when Xiaogu first appeared and made their huge run. Republic gets gifted his own blue buff and answer, but
The other thing that we need to actually mention is that first blood that goes to Doinby evens out the CS discrepancy in that middle lane. So we're back to square one with an advantage for QG.
Clid gets a ward on the dragon as Cloud wards up the jungle of Game Talents. And Xiaogu take the moment to control this vision now for Game Talents. The first Drake is Cloud, so not going to be too vital as Doinby, as you mentioned, returned, going for that catalyst, so the standard Rod of Ages start. And Wushang invades yet again.
I don't know if he wants to actually invade though. He's just looking to cherry pick minions and get some farm on the board as Cloud's now up here also.
Ooh, the hook catches Savoki. That's exhaust, but Savoki's still going to take a lot. Grey Health is going to catch some damage. Clid is able to finish off Savoki as Xiaogu collapse and get a kill. And
this is good movement from Cloud. So Savoki, in typical fashion, will leave his lane quite often. He is pretty much just a Tahm Kench in a player as well as champion. But Cloud being able to rotate with him, hitting the hook is good news for QG.
Currently 2-0. Now they've finished off that Cloud Drake. That's going to give even more mobility to a Ryze Sivir team. Gimgoon gets a good fling.
Has a giggle.
And has a chuckle. That is so much health.
And he's got his corrupting potion upgraded too, so not just the refillable. He'll hang around in that lane for longer than you'd like. Uncomfortably long.
Meanwhile, Candy7 shoves the wave into Zubin. Currently about 2 waves ahead. This should balance it out to maybe a 10 or even a 9 CS difference as Doinby and Clid chase.
Yeah.
They go right onto Gimgoon, who ghosts, but he doesn't have flash. He's going to be tossed back, which means Clid can't get the kick backwards into Doinby. Are they going to dive? Nah, Clid sets it up, but Doinby can't follow.
Clid had his kick the whole time, and yes, he got flung out of the distance, but he could have kicked early. He could have just kicked for damage, and Doinby would have been able to lock it down. Now that's a rotation that explicitly forces a recall from Gimgoon and ghost usage, but he has teleport. So he can go back to lane, knowing that they've gone back to base, because they have to deal with mid. Singed problems.
Now he's got that catalyst for even more sustain. Game Talent's going to try to take advantage of this small window, invade into the jungle of Xiaogu, and are immediately spotted by Cloud as Doinby races back into lane. No opportunity to get super deep vision, but for now, Game Talents are safe.
Yeah, but good movements again from Cloud to be able to prevent any further pushing in, any deeper vision. And, I mean, it is forward vision from Game Talents, but it's not deep enough to make a meaningful impact just yet. And especially because Cloud saw where it went down, they can work around it.
I feel like this was the question that we had earlier on. Xiaogu, are they going to continue to play around Doinby and Clid as expected?
Yes.
So it turns out the answer is yes. Well, then what can we expect from Game Talents to attempt to stop this tag team duo?
So Game Talents as a team will always look towards late game as well. They're a slow wind-up team. If Gimgoon gets going, though, they can make it happen.
Ooh, despite being isolated, Clid is able to out-damage Wushang there.
Clid hits the Q. Also has the threat of his ultimate. So that's the difference between a Kha'Zix and a Lee Sin trade. Is if Clid gets the ulti off, he can burst out the Kha'Zix, whereas Kha'Zix only gets invisibility that can double up as a slight damage bonus for his passive. Unseen something.
Predator.
Is that what it is? Or is that right?
Kabe going to teleport in. Savoki is going to take the ride on out of there. Doinby is still going to go in. He's going to be tanking the turret. That's a late teleport from Gimgoon, and the minion wave is only just now being cleared. Yeah, Kabe takes some big hits and is forced to back away from Savoki and Zubin as they chase him over the wall. Kabe flashes because he can't make it to the lantern, and Shockwave flings Kabe away, but he's still alive and still tanking as Game Talents chase him off.
And Kabe making a bit of a mistake by not leaving earlier, so he does get caught out. And instead of taking the lantern, there was a miscommunication between him and Cloud. He actually walks and gets hit by a shockwave. Fortunately for him, the shockwave does, as you mentioned, knock him to safety. And everything is as it once was. And we get to fight another time.
Yeah.
But that was a good window of opportunity Kabe used his teleport early. Doinby was in. The minions just weren't there to actually complement this maneuver.
It was building for a fight, but it wasn't fully built, I guess. Still had a few construction rafters.
They headbanged and the drop hadn't hit yet, so they felt embarrassed and left.
Blue buff now going to be gifted back over to Doinby. Looks like Republic is going to take the same as we get towards that 14-minute mark. Fairly even when it's all... Oh, whoa, Wushong got it.
That's pretty unlucky.
Oops.
340 health on the blue buff. It must have been a tick of red buff between the Q and W.
Ouch.
Which is, like,
Just
not really normal.
unlucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tragic. Well, can you activate the W while the Q is in midair?
Yeah, you can. That's why I'm confused. But
Interesting.
He got the blue buff.
So minor hesitation from Republic is going to mean that he misses out on that.
I actually think he still pressed it right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like an impossibly difficult tick of red buff stole that.
Quite unfortunate. But that's Cloud and Candy7 looking
Hooks
for
on
Savoki again. He's got his flash, but Klid shows up. Is going to get the insect back onto Savoki and cleans it right up. 3-0, Xiaogu.
Is that it
Doinby's
again?
going in again. He's got level 11, so gets the full range flash. Doinby chases. There's no mana on that Ashe, and Doinby is just going to walk it up. Here comes a stealth Kha'Zix, who suddenly regrets this. Doinby almost has the snare again, but Wushong flashes to make it under his tier 2.
And Klid aiming for a juke, but the Kha'Zix doesn't, so Wushong lives. However, this bottom lane turret is in jeopardy, and it will go down. QG starting to find advantages and pushing it further and further. Republic doesn't exist, and this is the exact same reoccurring problem that we're actually seeing between Horizon and Orianna in this matchup. Orianna starts well, gets a slight CS advantage, but Ryze is everywhere on the map.
Gimgoon actually going to rotate towards the mid lane to help Republic and help clear out the minion wave, trying to answer back. But here comes the rest of Xiaogu. The turret's still standing, and Republic just not able to have an impact in this game just yet.
Yeah, Gimgoon's just hanging out.
Yeah. He's cinched. He's having a snow day.
He already pushed that top
Yo,
lane.
Klid is about to face check. Walks in. That's the Sonic Wave on Wushong. And they managed to get the snare onto Savoki. He used his flash earlier. That's the gray health popped, but Klid follows up. Shockwave finds two, and Klid with red buff is able to secure the kill onto Savoki. Klid chases forward. Flash kick onto Wu Shuang. He dies to Candy7 as the Infernal Drake respawns, and Xiaogu are 6-0.
And Klid's Lee Sin is what Ben 4 wishes his was. And it's less montage and more timed around a coordinated and very effective team. And that to me just screams what QG are right now. They're playing this extremely well as a unit. If they're behind in farm, it doesn't actually matter because the end goal is still being achieved by them. And they're getting those team fights, 6-0.
Yeah. Can you really call them team fights, though? I feel like Xiaogu are just finding... Oh, Doinby gets hit from downtown. And Zubin and Republic are going to pick that up.
Yeah, that was a left right good night.
That certainly was.
Doinby got put to sleep. It was an arrow and it was an afterthought, unfortunately. But the turret does go. And so that's a really good reactive play. And heads-up movement from Game Talents.
They are able to pick up their first kill and take down the mid-tier 1, something Xiaogu haven't even been able to do yet, as Republic is finally able to have an impact thanks to some assistance from Zubin. Now moving forward, we're starting to see a few changes as Xiaogu swap their duo towards the top side. Savoki well aware of that. He's going to get some deep vision onto that side of the map as Zubin heads up there as well.
Yeah.
Kabe and Gimgoon already on that bottom side.
The gold lead was stretching, actually, between these two teams. So by Game Talents making that play mid, they can reduce that difference by a fair amount, enough to say they're well and truly still in the game. Wushong wants level 11, but he also wants to fight before that, it seems, as he needs to calm down and go back to his red buff.
The slow does hit Candy7, but he's still able to walk away thanks to some help from that Cloud Drake. And Wushong, yep, does as you said. They do see Klid on that side of the map as well because of the vision placed earlier by Savoki. And Doinby's already roaming towards that side as well, so Xiaogu, they've shown their hand early, play around Klid and Doinby. It seems to have worked for the first half as the junglers, excuse me, top laners proxy each other.
I can tell you there's no value in playing around Gimgoon and Kabe. They both just need to use their teleports for the greater good of the team. And the less that Kabe's using his, the happier that Gimgoon will be. But of course, going for the Righteous Glory build means that he's quite effective at catching people out of position. This is where I kind of like the Sivir pick. As Gimgoon screams go and presses all of his go buttons, and then Sivir can scream with her ultimate and run the opposite direction. It'll help. And the spell shield for the fling, or the Ash Arrow, or the Shockwave.
Just battle cries upon battle cries. Looks like a skirmish and the Tri-Bush as they're fighting over vision. Game Talents with 4 outnumber the 3 of Xiaogu and are able to scare them back enough to get a control ward. Look at the vision Xiaogu have got in this lane. They are so ready for a fight.
They're ready, but it's also not deep enough vision. So they're quite strong in a neutral sense, and nobody will be able to gank them from the river. Where Wushuang is right now is going to be a blind spot, except that they're pushing in so quickly that it's impossible for him to get in the bush. And so you can see Game Talents matching this, trying to not let it crash under the turret to get him in, is actually an indicator. It's a tell that something's wrong, because there's no reason for them to stop that minion wave and take damage from it.
As a result, recall is completed out of Candy 7 and Cloud, and Game Talents have 3 members prepped and ready to start trying to push that tier 1 turret, though here comes Candy 7 and Cloud as they head back up there.
So they'll get back there at the right time. Doinby is also immediately rotating, so watch what Game Talents do here, because if they commit to this, the second Sivir returns, they will die.
Yeah, they're chasing. That's the flash play. Savoki is the target, hooked in, keeping that Ashe locked down. Exhaust onto Doinby, late teleport out of Kabe means Savoki gives his life up so the rest of his team can escape. Gimgoon and Kabe both complete their teleport, and now it's 5v4 in the top lane.
And this is exactly as we expected. So Clit is still available, Ryze still has his ultimate, and they can look for collapses. But most importantly, I believe they'd want the turret. But to get that turret, they have to get through GT.
Doinby setting up the dive, doesn't actually take the Realm Orb, that pulls Zubin forward. Shockwave finds 2, and immediately Wushuang follows up. Cloud is trying to get out. It's Kabe, Cloud, and Doinby, but Cloud will drop to Wushuang. He's snared and drops to Doinby's ambient AoE. This entire fight, he's been dishing out spells, and that ends up being a 3 for 3.
Yeah, and this is one of those scenarios where Doinby is just starting to pop off and get a little bit too large. Kabe will never die either. And Republic hits a good shockwave at the start of the fight, but he was already being targeted. So that shockwave was out of necessity and desperation. And he's lucky that it connects as well as it does, or that could have been a lot worse for Game Talents. QG making good movements, and again, you'll see this here. Shubin has no way to live, but because Kabe's on top of Republic, just watch how Doinby can now work around this fact, gets flung into the Ashe as well. It says, thank you very much, Gimgoon. Gimgoon was trying to actually save the Orianna with that fling.
I feel like we've seen that mistake a few times. Lee Sin kicking the Ryze into a carry, or Singe flinging the Ryze into a carry. Just keep Ryze where he is.
Doinby types XD in all chat.
Question mark ping. And Xiaogu now taking down that top tier 1 turret. They've only got the mid tier 1 remaining, setting up some proxy vision around that side. Mountain Drake is up in 20 seconds. They've already secured the first 2. And with that teleport, Xiaogu look prepped for that bottom side dragon and perhaps some pressure mid.
Savoki's
the arrow.
Build. Oh. Alright, he's alright. Savoki's item build stands out to me as a little bit interesting. Instead of going towards the redemption or going towards the locket, he's got the itemization of a Warmogs, which is, he's got 2 of those. Are they braces?
Yeah, crystalline bracers.
Crystalline braces, instead of actually doing the next step. So his item build is actually locked until he gets the next item and completes it in its entirety. How unusual.
Not entirely certain what's going on there, but Mountain Drake is taken now by Xiaogu. Game Talents got vision on the other side of the map on that top jungle. But Game Talents are on the bottom.
Exactly, and QG actually rotating to the bottom. The Singed is tanky, so he can deal with, to an extent, QG pushing in. But this is how they're going to play this out. So QG will pressure. They'll try and get rid of the Rot Portal immediately. If they get the turret, fantastic. If they don't, they can actually push back to mid and get the outer turret. Use the Ryze ultimate if they want to accelerate it, and then try and get that outer, because it's an easier turret to get, and they're pushing Game Talents around the map, making them rotate, so they're slower. And that's exactly what QG are doing now.
Yeah, it seems like Cloud was half a step behind the memo as he's forced to take the long way around, and Xiaogu race over to the mid-tier 1. Game Talents are able to follow, And Xiaogu keep moving, heading up towards that top side. It's after the 20-minute mark, so they can start baiting Baron Vision.
Exactly. So next step, they'll collect top lane. They look towards red buff. They're trying to pressure everything at once and pull game talents around the map until they get a forced error out of their opposition. Through that error, they can catch anybody out. It's a Lee Sin, Maokai, Ryze, and they've got the Sivir ultimate and Thresh hook. So really strong pick composition. If they prioritize their vision control, that is something they are doing quite well in a neutral standpoint. And we'll see if they can accelerate that better, more offensively.
Clid still has one ward ready, and Cloud just recalled to fill up his Ruby Sightstone with even more. Ooh, the sweeper just misses vision there as Gimgoon he's playing PvE on the bottom side of the map, setting up Kabe to do the same, but Doinby is able to catch a recall timing for Republic and get some good damage onto that turret.
Candy 7 actually takes a lot of damage from Republic himself. That is the death cap actually completed from that Orianna. As he moves closer to the level 16 point and closer to his 3-item point, he can become an uncontrollably large mid lane carry. But in saying that, he has to get through what is going to be effectively tanks that deal damage in Doinby and Clid.
Certainly going to be a challenge as Candy 7 clears it out. Gimgoon going for the red steal. There's no chance for a follow-up from Xiaogu as they were on the other side of the map. Game talents are able to surgically get in and get out.
I'm wrong. Singe got that. You can see bottom left of your screen, he's got a buff.
Yes.
He did get that.
He does.
Every single buff that game talents want to take. Republic can't get the blue buff.
Zubin can't refresh his red.
Unlucky. Oh, he went Knight's Vow. That's very
Ooh, they're getting on to Republic now. Point and click snare is one way to do it, along with the hook. Xiaogu find a pick. Teleport is completed for Kabe. Gimgoon starts his and cancels it. Xiaogu are 5v4 and are going to start this Baron.
Yeah, kicking the Baron buff off. Game talents are aware of this, but with no Orianna, no Shockwave, and a lot of damage, this is pretty much already gone.
Yeah, burned through with the early Mountain Drake and that Sivir. While it's flashed over the wall, Wushang leaps but dies.
Yeah, didn't get his smite off. The Sivir actually got the Baron buff.
Yeah.
It could have been dangerous.
You can see Clids is on cooldown, so he didn't get the timing quite right on it. But they still have the Baron, and they have the advantage. It's 6,000 gold, and this game is going for Xiaogu right now. They have got so much momentum.
Yeah, it's almost absolutely just in the hands of QG. It's their game to lose. And for game talents to get back into this one, they need the Miracle Ash Arrow. They need that Shockwave to hit. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen because the cross-map pressure they are consistently applying, pulling them around, is honestly disorienting their opposition here. QG are doing really well.
Yeah, just keep moving around the map. Keep trying to force mistakes. Xiaogu take down that mid-tier 1 and then move the minion wave forward with no response. They take down the mid-tier 2. Now they're heading bottom to clear out the ZZ Rot. Xiaogu have just opened up now 8,000 gold, and they're going to get the blue buff.
Exactly, and the blue buff timing. Like, this movement, firstly from Doinby and Clid working as a team to get the early game going, and now the entirety of QG. Every buff, every opportunity with every single wave. They're making the most out of it all, and this is one of the cleaner showings, I would say, from the LPL so far. That just felt so good to watch.
Yeah, the auto attack just bouncing through. I like how even the turret couldn't select the minions fast enough. Also, minor thing, if you ever get the chance to watch this replay, jump back to like 26:45. Doinby and Clid recall right next to each other at exactly the same time. The animation matches up perfectly on the minimap. Just little subtle touches that speak to the coordination of these players.
Yeah, good night, Sweet Swift.
Yes.
Found a new man.
Exactly. Doinby, very big right now. Actually going for a Banshee's Veil 4th. He's on his 4th item 28 minutes into the game. 5-1-6. Still down 20 CS, but this man is enormous.
And the consideration there, right, is he's not going to go for the Abyssal Scepter. Doesn't necessarily need it. The Banshee's Veil will get him out of the Ash Arrow, which is the primary engage tool, and has already killed him in the past. And the Orianna Shockwave, if he plays his positioning perfectly, also will not be able to connect. If it does, he's still got the Seraph's Embrace shield, and he doesn't need a Void Staff.
Yeah.
There just isn't enough magic resistance on the enemy team, because they're all carry champions. And there's a Knight's Vow on Savoki, which is the only other resistance item, I think, besides Gimgoon. Gimgoon just doesn't exist. He's a split-pushing man.
Things not looking too good for Game Talents as Baron buff still on Xiaogu for just over a minute now, but they've already cleared out all the 2 turrets. They're going to use the time to go for an empowered recall, get themselves set up for the eventual siege. Looks like Cloud Drake has spawned, and Clid is on his way along with Candy7 just to knock out those final objectives. But
where are you going?
Whoa, Doinby sends Cloud on a journey.
I believe that was an attempt to pressure the red buff from Subin so that he couldn't get it. Maybe push him away. Cloud decided that he wanted that journey. Doinby knew it was too late, so hopped off the ride a little bit early.
Yeah, Mr. Bones' wild ride has ended a little bit prematurely, as looks like we're seeing that Cloud Drake get taken and Xiaogu setting up to end this match. They're 10,000 gold ahead as the Baron buff is about to wear off.
They never felt like they were losing either. The only real problem was Republic having extra CS, but Doinby getting that first blood compensated. And now he's 5-1-6, even though Republic has a CS advantage still and is ahead of the clock. He's the only hope. And when he gets that Void Staff, maybe.
Yeah, does he need to wait for the Void Staff? Do you think he can do enough damage now?
Not to Rise.
Okay. Well, yeah, that Banshee's fail.
Not to Lee Sin. And only to Sivir if there's no spell shield. So when he's got the Void Staff, things could actually do damage again. Until then, he's completely blocked.
Right now, you can see him trying to catch minions in that mid lane, but he has to share with Wu Shuang, and Shubin is waiting for those other minions on the other side. Seems like Game Talents are just fighting over the gold income in the game right now. And you can even see Xiaogu are making it unsafe for Game Talents to move around. They have got wards all up in Game Talents jungle, very deep.
Exactly. So they have to share farm, which means they have to share experience. And by sharing experience, they're not getting the necessary evolve forms on Wushuang, the ultimate on Republic, which only just came around. Gimgoon's not going to have presence because of the vision control as well that QG have placed. And at this stage, we are just waiting, because that vision is the first step in the movements. There's Baron up in 2 minutes if it comes to it, and QG can't get anything prior. But now they've got the vision. They are able to start pushing forwards, advancing their movements. Oh, spell shielding arrows because they're just giving free mana. There's a sale on.
Buy one, get mana free. Kabe already prepping the wave on the bottom, finishes off his Guardian Angel.
Don't know how they're going to follow that arrow up either way.
4-man flashing over the wall.
Yeah. That sounds like a great idea,
Yeah.
Dom. Let's do it.
Into Arise.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Gimgoon finally pulled towards the bottom lane as Xiaogu reset. Clid and Cloud pick up their final ward stacks as they might be looking to end the game on this upcoming push.
Yeah, if QG win another fight, that should be the game. If Game Talents win a fight, it's one step back in a multi-step process to get back into a game. But they have everything they need right now on one of their members.
So Xiaogu, they took the Baron, they set up the map like this, they used the opportunity to control the jungle, control the buffs and objectives. What are they waiting for? Why is this now a lull for them?
It's difficult, firstly, because Gimgoon is controlling side waves against Kabe. They can't have a split push pressure point. He's just 1v1ing. They're just hitting each other and nothing actually happens. And because Kabe needs to have teleport importance and relevance, he doesn't want to fight Gimgoon actively.
Ooh, Doinby going to force a fight. Now they're going to try to fight Gimgoon. But as you said, that is a very tanky Singed.
I hope you had a great time on the show.
Giving a quick laugh as he props the Righteous Glory and backs away.
I think they've learned their lesson that we all knew already.
Yeah.
Is that there's no point fighting the Singed at this point in the game. Because he's too tanky. But they're trying to poke him out.
How did he already get over to Baron faster than Xiaogu?
Ghost and ult.
Oh, there goes Xiaogu chasing forward. Wu Shuang is caught and will be kicked back in. That's the cleanup by Candy7 as Clid is able to kite it forward, and Shubin is going to be dropped. Now that's 2 members of Game Talents dead to the 5 of Xiaogu. They've got minions pressing in just about all 3 lanes except mid. Thank you, Gimgoon. And they could be looking to end this.
And this is what they've got going for them. So they go back towards the middle lane. There is no minions, which means they're beelining straight to the Baron buff.
Yeah.
And the reason that they are prioritizing this Baron buff, to answer your question earlier, is because sieging against an Orianna is impossible. When she has everything available, including the shockwave, her wave clear instantly clears it.
Yeah.
Game Goon had the other lane controlled. Ashe is hard to siege into. Talm Kench will keep them alive. So they need this advantage. They need this big buff to empower the minions to do most of the work themselves. Make it so that Republic can't clear them, keep him away from blue buffs, and then just siege and try and end the game with this last fight.
And with that 5-man recall from Xiaogu, they've got elixirs, they've got Baron buff, they've got everything going their way. 14,000 gold, 34 minutes in. This has been a very slow building. I don't want to say snowball, but this is more like a rock slide at this point.
And Doinbe's at full build now also.
Holy cow.
He's got his Zonias. There's no stopping him. He's so tanky.
And he's going to do huge damage. Finally, you see Shubin getting back up. Kabe going to be dropped into the back line. They're going to have a tough time bringing him down as the rest of Xiaogu drop the inhibitor turret. The first to fall as the minions now stream in. And the inhibitor crumbles behind it.
As simple as having the Baron buff. Doinbe very cleverly uses his ult and needs to be careful of Gimgoon.
Ooh, that hook almost hits Republic, but the shockwave resets it. Wushuang jumps in. Redemption going to heal Xiaogu back up, but they just have so many raw stats. Gimgoon drops, but he's got the GA. Wushuang going to be cleaned up by Candy7 as he's got some help from Clid. That's a triple kill, and Gimgoon is going to watch as the rest of his base falls to pieces before him. Xiaogu, 18-4. 16,000 gold ahead, are going to take game number 1 over Game Talents.
This is a pretty clear-cut performance, honestly, from QG. First game into the LPL. They never looked like they were going to lose that game. They never even looked at danger of falling behind against Game Talents. That's a good first showing.
Oh yeah. We had some questions. Can Doinbe bring this roster in and look strong? I think that answers one.
I think Doinbe and Clid performed fantastically. The bottom lane still looked good as well. Even that top lane role did his part.
Yeah. Joining us now on the desk to help break down that game is Raz once again. Tell us, what'd you see?
They look damn good.
Yeah.
Damn, they look damn good. Like, the one big question, and I've got to talk a little bit of negatives, but just take a look at this.
Yeah, 18,000 gold when it was all said and done. 8 turrets ahead, that's 9-1, and 2 Barons. They hardly dropped an objective.
I mean, that graph just looks like a slip and slide downhill for GT. And it just comes down to it that right in the pick ban, I love the Sivir pick here. I felt like Sivir and Thresh was great for the lane. They shoved in exactly as they did. And they just kept going at them. Every single time the Frogman decided to leave the lane, they caught him.
Yeah, you can see the damage that Candy7 was able to do. 16,000, Doinbe right behind him at 15.9. I'm sure it was just one spell that upset the whole thing.
And that's what people forget about Sivir. That's the thing. People forget about her because she does have a bad lane against a lot of champions. But against this matchup, once she gets that 3-item spike, we talk about it. It's kind of like, you know, a rewinding of a year ago. And it's like, oh, you know, I guess Sivir just reached 3 to 4 items. I guess she's just going to kill everybody.
I think what we took from this is if you ban Kalista, Varus, Caitlyn, and Jhin, like, there is a place for Sivir.
Yeah, there is.
And then
It's
Ashe, just keep on running down the tier list. Imp even tried Kog'Maw, so a little bit curious that we did see that Sivir come.
I like to see the Kalista ban coming through because they are respecting Candy7. When I remember in LSPL, even in LPL, he brought out the Kalista. He was known for the Kalista. Even when the Thresh came through, you have to respect it. Kalista Thresh actually has a decent lane. So the moment you ban it out, I was like, well, you know what? We have Sivir for the Maokai and the Rise, so let's bring it on through.
Yeah, they kind of put themselves into a bad matchup. Banning Kalista, even if he's a really good Kalista player, I don't exactly agree with. Still, we're yet to see it be the most successful champion in any region, including the LPL. LSPL is kind of its own ballpark.
Yeah, I can talk about it being, oh, you were the best of the minor leagues, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But again, Xiaogu played exceptionally strong over the course of the game. The big tag team duo, we said it time and again, Doinbe and Clid, was a little bit hesitant for the first few minutes of the match, but once they started to get rolling, it just seems like it accelerated.
I mean, Clid was a monster. I talked about, like, Clid was I was kind of surprised at how aggressive he was coming into it because, I mean, we talk about he's an aggressive Korean jungler, and with Doinbe, they're going to be working together, but he worked not only together with Doinbe, but with Cloud as well. Cloud was an amazing addition to this lineup, and I expect him to keep going on with him.
And he worked well by himself even. Clid at the right place at the right time. As a 5-man, they were still communicating well, and that's the thing that it gets me the most. From drafting phase, we looked at felt like they mind-gamed Game Talents into a certain draft and picked to beat it with the Sivir as an example. The Thresh did well into the Tahm Kench. And then they played it right.
Yeah.
They got 1 kill, and that momentum just carried the whole way.
They just kept moving. That was the biggest point, is that they move much better than any other team. And now going up against Game Talents, sure, Game Talents is not a team we expect to do well, right? So we had to temper our hype train there, kind of put in a little less coal in that.
In the Game Talents
Do
train.
we? I mean,
just
we
a tiny bit.
watched good teams play against teams we thought were going to underperform, and it still took them 40 minutes and a very drawn-out, not refined, efficient win. This was that.
Yeah.
We do have Xiaogu on blue side. They have swapped Alone in as AD carry, and they are replacing their support as well for Ali.
Well,
so,
Ari, yeah.
Ari, yes.
So Ari coming in now, that's actually going to be great for them. That's basically their bottom lane duo from the LSPL. So they're bringing Ari and Alone. So that's great to see from them, to see how they can come into the LPL. There was some criticism to them.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's necessary for them to do something like that after a Game 1 performance that their bottom lane had, but experience is experience.
Yeah, here is the MVP. 6-1 and 10, 89% kill participation, and nearly 29% of his team's damage share. This is Doinby back at form.
And his R button was a highlight reel, and it's not because it does damage, but it's because it can set up the Maokai to actually come into the backline. That's the reason they get the inhibitor after the Baron, is he actually just throws in the Maokai and says, you go tank stuff, we'll take the turret over here, everything will be great. And it's things like that that actually separate good risers from great risers.
Exactly. And one big question mark for me going forward into Game 2, Game 3 is going to be how they play out their initial advantage. Because we saw them actually, they were snowballing for a long time, but I felt like they could have actually went on to Baron and actually played that game a little earlier on and brought up a fight that they could have taken, because they actually went on to Singed in the bottom side of the map. That just didn't make much sense to me. You need to target the enemy team, or at least the whole point of the enemy team coming into you and respecting your Baron push, especially since you have Ryze, Sivir, Maokai. That shouldn't be a threat for you.
Yeah, and I feel like that was something that we saw Xiaogu sort of stumble with. Yes, they had the big advantage. They took all the tier 2s, and then they kind of sat and waited for Baron.
But that's what they should do. So this is a big point, is that this is probably too much of a criticism, honestly. I'm going to be quite honest. This is a criticism for a perfect team when we're surprised that they're this good of a team.
Yeah.
So we're going to be seeing how they work out well for them.
We certainly are. We're going to go ahead and be right back as we get ready for Game 2 between Xiaogu and Game Talents. Don't go anywhere.